We have a problem, Batman. Gotham needs you again.
The Zerg are space bugs that eat everything and get stronger by stealing DNA from whatever they kill. They work like one giant organism controlled by a big brain called the Overmind that tells billions of creatures what to do at the same time. The plan must deal with enemies who learn from every fight, adapt to every weapon, and grow stronger by copying the best parts of their victims. Their biggest weapon isn't any single monster, but their ability to keep getting better at killing things by eating them and taking their good traits. They treat war like a science experiment, where every battle teaches them how to build better monsters next time. The hive mind connects every Zerg through psychic links that let them coordinate perfectly, but also creates a weakness when you can jam their communications. The Overmind controls billions of creatures at once through instant mental commands that eliminate confusion and friendly fire. But when individual bugs get cut off from the network, they become confused animals that can't think for themselves. The strategy is disrupting their psychic network through electronic interference, jamming signals, or killing the command creatures that relay orders. When the hive mind breaks down, their perfect teamwork becomes chaos, and their overwhelming numbers become scattered groups that can be handled separately. Evolution makes normal weapons useless over time, because the Zerg adapt to anything you use repeatedly and develop immunities while copying useful traits from enemies they kill. They reproduce so fast that genetic improvements spread through entire swarms in hours instead of generations, letting them evolve in real time during battles. Every fight teaches them about their opponent's weapons, weaknesses, and biology, which gets built into improved versions designed to counter specific threats. The approach requires constantly changing tactics and weapons to stay ahead of their learning curve, using strategies only once before switching to something completely different. When you can make evolution work against them instead of for them, their biological advantages become temporary problems instead of permanent solutions. What do you think, Alfred?
Master Bruce, the Zerg represent life itself turned into a weapon of conquest. They cannot be reasoned with, because their entire existence revolves around consuming and improving through the destruction of other species. They view all other life as raw material rather than equals deserving consideration. Perhaps the most sobering realization is that they represent evolution without wisdom, adaptation without ethics. The only mercy is that their very success might ultimately lead to their downfall when they run out of new genetic material to incorporate and begin consuming themselves.
Alfred's missing the point. The Zerg aren't a philosophy problem. They're an extinction threat that needs eliminating. Their biological nature makes them incompatible with civilization, requiring complete destruction rather than understanding. The strategy focuses on using their evolution against them by creating biological weapons that target their adaptation process, genetic viruses that corrupt their improvement systems, and attack methods that become more effective against adapted versions. When their greatest strength becomes their biggest weakness, survival becomes possible through better science instead of bigger guns. What do you think, Robin?
Bruce, I've been studying their attack patterns from the StarCraft archives, and there's something everyone misses. The Zerg have a fatal flaw in their command structure. When you kill a Cerebrate or damage an Overlord, the units under it don't just get confused. They actually start attacking each other because they lose the psychic signal that tells them friend from foe. Their individual creatures have almost no independent intelligence, so without constant guidance, they default to attacking anything that moves. We could use that. Take out the right command nodes, and their own swarm becomes our weapon against them.
Robin's right that their improvement method is self-defeating. They get stronger by destroying variety instead of protecting it, which eventually limits how much they can grow. The strategy uses this flaw by introducing genetic material they can't properly absorb, creating biological dead ends that damage their evolution process, and forcing them to adapt in ways that make them weaker overall. This includes making organisms with incompatible DNA, biological weapons that become poisonous when absorbed, and evolution traps that look helpful but cause problems when integrated. When eating things makes them sick instead of stronger, their expansion stops and their numbers start dropping. Biological warfare becomes the main weapon since normal tactics don't work against creatures that can adapt to any repeated attack pattern. The plan involves creating diseases specifically designed to kill Zerg, genetic viruses that mess up their DNA copying process, and biological agents that spread through their psychic network to infect entire swarms. This includes weaponized plagues that get worse when spread through mental links, genetic bombs that activate after being absorbed, and biological confusion agents that break their evolution systems. The key is understanding how they reproduce and steal DNA well enough to create targeted diseases that work faster than they can develop immunity. Environmental destruction targets their need to consume planetary life to fuel reproduction and evolution, since their expansion requires turning entire worlds into breeding grounds for new swarms. Zerg invasions transform planets into hive clusters designed for spawning creatures and processing genetic material. But these changes follow patterns that can be disrupted through environmental warfare. The strategy involves atmospheric changes that make planets unsuitable for Zerg survival, introducing competing life forms that can outfight Zerg organisms for resources, and planetary sterilization that eliminates the biological foundation their expansion needs. When their environmental requirements become problems instead of advantages, their expansion stops and existing populations start dying from lack of resources.